nothing but the dog in me.
Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. Welcome to warmer weather and all the dangers and nuisances and annoyances that come with it. First and foremost, just like I get on my soapbox about not leaving your animals outside in the cold, this is that time of year where I will be on my soapbox about not leaving your animals in a hot car, outside without shade, water, protection for extended periods of time. And the thought that you really, if you're going to be out walking your dog, the ground, the tar, the blacktop, the sidewalks, all get hot and they can burn your dog's paws. So be aware of your surroundings. Be aware that your dog has needs. Even you don't want to leave cats out in sweltering heat. They're going to suffer too. Dogs in hot cars can die very quickly, and most certainly than not, I will be covering all of that in depth as I do every summer. But there are also other risks and hazards and grievances and annoyances and nuisances, thinking of even where I live. A little rant about neighbors who seem to think it's okay to leave a little dog out on the deck for most of the day while it barks its head off at every leaf that blows in the wind. And then they feel it's okay to let the dogs run around an unfenced yard unattended, sometimes with them out there, sometimes unattended. Find them in my yard all the time. People like that, they just make awful neighbors. I've seen one of their dogs almost get nailed by a car a few times. It's people like that are a nightmare. And how do you even talk to them? I've tried. It doesn't seem to make a difference. So, surely more sooner than later, I'm going to have like a real showdown. But, for those of you who think that behavior is okay, if that reflects how you comport yourself, you're wrong. And, it's only going to cause problems. I think all the time when I can't even take my dogs out in peace when I'm trying to walk down my driveway and their dogs are charging at my dogs. Now, granted, there's a stone wall and a drop and whatever, but, as good as my dogs are, what's going to happen if, they don't wake up in time and call their dog or do something and, this little dog comes and starts biting or whatever my dog. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. And people like that cause more problems than they're worth, because if my dog reacts, it's going to be my problem. And so really, people, get yourselves under control because you are the problem. And I'm just, I'm not going to stay on that for too long. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a wonder I don't have a lot of gray hairs and blood pressure problems before the summer's over. And that being said, it is that time of year when people are out with their dogs, doing stuff, and bad things can happen. They can happen in the blink of an eye. And what happens if there's a dog fight? That's a very serious thing. When two dogs get into a full-blown fight, there's always those situations that, they kind of, you might meet somebody in the dog park, or, you're walking your dog and, your dog's on the leash and they start to act up, and you can pull them back, maybe a little snapping along the way, everybody's okay. But what happens when there's a full-blown dog fight? Rescuers and animal professionals they're on their guard with this always, you know, because they're dealing with animals and they have animals, whether it's, you know, in passing or intentional, having to interact with each other. It's a very risky thing, even for rescuers and animal professionals, to do introductions. You know, if you've got a potential adopter and they come down with their dog and you've got the shelter dog and, you know, you're trying to see if they get along, it's a very, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have a well thought out process, or something horrible can happen and a fight can erupt and someone's going to get hurt. You know, even when animal professionals and rescuers do dog testing, you know, they don't know how a dog gets along with other dogs, so they're going to use like a dog they know is good with other dogs and make the introduction. It's a very risky thing. Things can happen. Things can go wrong quickly, and what you know and how you react makes all the difference in the world. You know, I've participated in dog testing and introductions, and you know, you really do have to watch every signal, and not everybody is keyed into that. I've had the good fortune, under most circumstances, to be with someone who has even, you know, more knowledge than me, and you know, I've been guided by other people as to, you know, what to expect and what to do, but not everybody's that fortunate. You know, some of us take risks, but you know, obviously someone has to. Someone knows what to do and how to react. Fights in those situations are very generally avoided, but you know, things do happen, and like I said, they happen quickly. And so what do you do when you're at an event or you're out on a walk and, you know, there's another dog and things go terribly wrong? Or, God forbid, you know, you're walking with your dog and just like a dog comes up out of nowhere and decides, you know, to start going crazy, and now there's a dog fight. It's a crazy thing. It's a very scary thing. You know, if you've got the other person, assuming there's another person, if the other person is clueless, somebody has to take control. Somebody has to know what to do. So it's worth it, not only to do the research, but, you know, take a few clues from, you know, where I'm about to go with this. You know, it's a tough situation no matter what. Obviously, it's easier with smaller dogs because, you know, I hate to say it, the injury a smaller dog is going to inflict on either the other smaller dog or you even is less than if you're dealing with a big dog on a big dog or a big dog on a little dog. You know, if you've got two big powerful dogs going at it, that's something. If you've got a big dog going after a little dog, well, you know, there's going to be one winner, and it's not going to be the little dog. It's going to be devastating outcomes if it's a mismatch, or if it's like the big dogs. You know, breaking up dog fights, there might be success for some people in grabbing a dog by a collar and pulling it off if, you know, you're doing it at the same time or you know what you're doing, but that's generally not seen as the way to go, because what's going to happen is all the dog is going to know is that there's something else touching it, there's someone else there. They're going to perceive you as another threat, and more often than not, as you touch your dog, even though, you know, it's not going to recognize your mom or your dad, it's going to turn around and start trying to go after you. So it's going to feel like it's fighting two enemies because it doesn't know that you're you, and it's not even thinking that you're you. It's got like those blinders on in fight mode. So what's going to happen is you're going to get torn up. And, you know, I've known any number of people that this has happened to, and it's a horrible thing when it happens, because a dog in full-blown fight mode is going to do damage. And like I said, the bigger the dog, the more the damage. I've been bitten by little dogs, and I've been bitten by big dogs, and I'll take the little dog every day. But yeah, if you're putting yourself, trying to grab the collar and putting yourself that close to the business end of the fight, you really do risk getting seriously hurt. A dog in the heat of the moment, like I said, isn't going to know that you're you, no matter what you think. Although some people do have success with that, like I said, and I will tell a story that is kind of amusing, although it wasn't really amusing. But, you know, there is research that I did to talk about this topic, and it points to a safe way to separate dogs, and I still wonder about how this even works. But I guess it's as good a knowledge as any for anybody to have. And, you know, if anybody who's watching has anything to put into this, the number's up on the screen, and you can feel free to call and put in your 2 cents about how to break up a dog fight. I welcome any input. But what I've seen in a number of venues is that you grab the rear legs. You do this with somebody else, obviously. At the same time, each person grabs the rear legs of one of the dogs and pulls it up so like you've got a doggy wheelbarrow. It's an interesting thought, but you back away. You know, now you've thrown the dog off. The back legs are the strength. The front legs, if they don't stop what they're doing, they're probably just going to fall over, and dog's not going to want to do that. So you grab the back legs and lift them up. You back away and circle around, and just like a wheelbarrow with holding the back legs, you walk that dog as far away from the other dog. You know, you each go in separate directions, and you get as far away as you can. And you don't just let the dog go once they're separated. You've got to have, you know, someplace to put them, a leash, get them in your car, get them in your house, whatever, because as soon as you let them go, they're going to try to go right back to it. It kind of, I try to play that scenario out in my mind, and I'd be afraid, even at that, picking up the back legs, the dog's going to turn to you. But I guess if you do it, the element of surprise, it might work. You know, if you're alone, it's a lot bigger of a deal. You've got to try to decide which dog is actually the more aggressive of the two. And it said the articles that I was reading says that you should try to slip a leash around the belly closest to the back legs, pull it tight, and try to find a place to secure the dog. They're going to keep fighting. Then you do the whole wheelbarrow thing with the other dog and get that one completely out of sight, out of mind, and then go back and deal with the first dog. You know, I don't know. I've never, fortunately, never had to experience quite the heat of the moment kind of stuff. For me, it's been, you know, the peripheral, you can just pull them away type of thing. But there is a lot of damage that you can do if you've got 2 people holding the leash of 2 dogs who are fighting, and you just try to yank them away, because you're probably going to be yanking at a point in time where someone's got a mouthful of someone else, and if you rip, you're going to cause a whole lot more damage. So, you know, when you read, when you do the research, it tells you these things. I think that reading it is a different thing than applying it in real life, because, you know, not everything is as easy in real life as it is on paper. But, you know, if anybody's got any other ideas, I'd love to hear them, whether it's, you know, commenting on my Facebook page or, you know, anything else. Again, I said you can call in. The phone lines are open, 203-753-7593. You know, you can always try a distraction first to stop a fight. If you've got something that'll make a loud noise, if you can clap your hands. They say you shouldn't scream, because that just kind of like triggers the dog into more of a panic. You should always stay calm, because, again, dogs respond to their environment. And if you're in a panic, they're just going to become more, I don't want to say aggressive, because I hate that word with dogs, but they're going to become more aggressive, because there's really not much too many other words to describe a fight. You know, there's, again, a lot to be said for not grabbing the leash or not grabbing the collar to break up 2 dogs that are fighting. But the story that I was going to tell is of a friend who went to take her dog out, and the neighbor's dog was right there on the lawn. Her dog decided to protect his property, which you can't blame him. You know, here's a dog, you know, just like scares him and he reacts. My friend was able to just go, her dog had the other dog kind of like pinned. She was able to go grab him by the collar and get him in the house. The other dog took off the minute hers released. But the funny but kind of not funny is that my friend was kind of like picking fur and hair out of her dog's teeth. But it's not funny, but it's funny, okay? You're laughing. It is. She all but had to floss his teeth. But, you know, those are the rare instances. If the other dog isn't fighting, you stand a better chance. You know, if there's one and you can grab the one that is fighting and let the other one go, it's a good thing. But, you know, everybody should just be aware that these are possibilities and be prepared, you know, to do what they have to do, but stay safe, because a dog bite is not a joke, trust me. You know, I read one thing when I was doing this research that really disturbed me, and it said that if a fight is bad enough, just let them fight regardless of injury or possible death, and keep yourself safe. I can't imagine that. I absolutely can't imagine just like being like, oh well, peace, it's not safe for me. You know, there's got to be a way, somehow, some way. And again, I'm just going by what is out there as far as information. Yeah, but not everybody's got one. You know what I'm saying? Speedo's saying, you know, if you had a tranquilizer, but you know, it's just, it's not that easy. If you're an animal control officer and something happens to happen, yeah, you have that option. But you know, the everyday person just doesn't necessarily come armed. But really, the best way to, I guess, try to avoid being in that situation is just to be aware of your surroundings. You know your dog, know the signs if he's reactive, and if you know animals well enough, you can see if another dog is, you know, showing signs of being a problem. Sometimes dogs will just have a standoff, you know, and it's not going to turn into a fight, and it will if the people react, you know, in a bad way. So it's a catch-22, but this is that time of year where people are out and about and things are more apt to happen. So try to stay safe. You know, don't put yourself in harm's way. And like I said, if anybody's got anything to add, I'd love to hear it. Moving onwards, Zach, can we have the picture of the kitty? This little guy looks like he's like such a state of surprise. A friend of mine actually found him as a little one in her yard, and she took him in and she had him neutered. He's up to date on his shots. He's about 6 months old, and he's not loving the resident dog. So she's been trying to find him a home, but you know, it's kind of not cool between the little guy and the dog. So I told her that I would do what I could to try to help place him. So here he is. If anybody is interested in this beautiful little guy, and he's gorgeous, and he's a good little kitty, you can email me at pawprints713@aol.com. That's PAWPRINTS 713@aol.com. Speedo just declined. And I will put you in touch with the friend of mine who has this little guy. But I just love that little face. He looks like a little imp, and he looks like, oh my God, my picture's getting taken. But yeah, about 6 months old, neutered, up to date on shots, ready to find his new life. And let me know, holla, if you're interested. Alrighty, I will take the camera back. And we know that dogs and cats, as well as other animals, serve as therapy animals in a variety of settings. Hospitals, nursing homes, schools, libraries, for the military. animals have a wonderful healing power. Their presence just sometimes turns people around, even just for a few minutes, to be able to interact with an animal. It really puts the soul at ease. You know, they offer comfort to people with disabilities and illnesses and PTSD. As we know, I've had Hounds Healing Heroes on, and you know, they deal with the post-traumatic stress veterans, and you know, animals just serve a great purpose. Someone brought to my attention an article about an organization that's working to bring therapy dogs to truck stops. Now, you wouldn't think it, but you know, truck drivers live a very stressful life. They're very much in solitude. You know, they live in their trucks. You know, some of them are able to bring their dogs along. Some of them have cats, some of them have birds. You'd be amazed. But they're actually setting up a program with several different agencies to have dogs at truck stops so that truck drivers can hang out and chill and just like feel a little bit of the love, which I think is kind of cool. There's actually one dog that I read in this article who has an app where it will tell the drivers where the dog's going to be, so they can choose to stop at that truck stop. So that's kind of neat to think that, you know, animals are just reaching everyone, and they do reach everyone. But again, you really wouldn't think of truckers as someone who would be targeted for that, but the Truckers Wellness Foundation is working on that, which I think is kind of cool. Again, you know, these guys, they drive long and hard. They have crazy hours. They deal with traffic, and they deal with idiots on the road, and you know, they end up, you see them parked alongside the highways. They end up having like no place to stop, no place to lay their head. They're away from home more often than they're not. They're missing family, they're missing friends. They may have dogs at home that, you know, they're not in a position where they can take them along. So a little bit of bonding time with a dog is probably not the worst thing that could happen to his day, you know? So I think it's interesting. I would like to say happy birthday to one of my very own. Can we get the picture of Duke up, Zach? That's my big boy. He turned 13 years old on May 5th. So I made him a Cinco de Mayo baby, not for any great love of Cinco de Mayo, but it was just kind of like where it all fell together based on when I got him. I've had Duke since he was about 8 weeks old. He is my oldest, and he is, you know, I don't like to say there's favorites, you know, because there's really not, but he is my heart dog. You know, that's a different thing entirely. He's been the most in tune with me. He's been, you know, just in some ways the most difficult, I'm not going to lie. Very strong-willed, very, what do I want to say, independent in his way, but excuse me, at 80 pounds, thinks he's a lap dog, and has no problem, yeah, just like crawling in your lap. Someone said his picture makes it look like he gives the sweetest kisses. He kisses like he means it. He really does. But he's been, you know, my protector and my sidekick. You know, I have obviously other dogs, but you know, Duke is somehow, I don't know if it's the bonding that happens when they're that young, and that, you know, you can debunk that myth by adopting an older dog and, you know, having the same kind of bond. I just don't know what it is. But Duke is actually the last dog that I have that lived with my Daisy all those years ago. So for as old as Duke is as long as Daisy's been gone, which is kind of hard for me to accept. But, you know, I took Duke in because he reminded me so much of Daisy as a puppy. And his story is a funny one. Duke, I will take the camera back, Zach. I went to one of the local pet stores, after work to pick up supplies, and you know, there was a shelter there, and as I'm walking through the store, I hear this incredible, non-stop barking, you know, enough to make me like wish that I had earplugs or someone would stop that noise. I did my rounds at the store, finally got over to where the rescue was, and the noise had stopped. And I said to the lady who was in charge of the shelter, who in all of the world was making this noise? She said, that one right there. And he was sound asleep. Sure, he tired himself out. So I looked at him and I was like, oh, look at him. Yeah, okay. Can I hold him? So picked him up, sound asleep. I held him and I held him. I held him for an hour while he slept. He was quiet as a mouse. I said, how could you tell me this was the dog that was barking? Nope, that's the one. I said, okay. Now that I'm in love, I asked if I could sleep on it for 24 hours, you know. Didn't want to make a hasty decision. You know, I wanted to think it through, make sure that I was really ready to bring in a puppy. Wanted to make sure my house was ready if I decided that I was actually going to go ahead and do this. The lady agreed to hold him for 24 hours. On my way home, as I was thinking about it, now this is all I was thinking about. So what am I going to name this little guy? What goes with Daisy? And then of course Duke popped in my head. I laughed and the rest was history. I will tell you that there's a part of me that believes that, you know, in the strange way things work, the universe and all that, he was making all that noise, so I would find him. That like whole destiny thing. And you know, you can think I'm crazy, but you know, people think I'm worse, so that's okay. But that's been my 13 years with Duke. And like I said, he was a crazy puppy. I went ahead and got another one a few months after, so I raised 2 puppies at the same time, and I'll never do that again, that's for sure. Anyway, Zach, what do we got for time? About who? 30 seconds, okay. You know, every dog has their own personality, and you know, Duke certainly is full of it. Him and Bocce was my next one. Drove me nuts, but they're still around. I will say peace, love, and dogs. Until next week, thank you very much.